A thought on working from home. I understand the benefits of working from home. I get up for work at 4:40. I get a little bit of a lie and don't have to commute. Don't have to shower or get dressed, put on makeup. Yay! I get to my bed a little bit later, get up a bit later, and be at my desk without any effort. Working in your PJs. What's not to like? The trouble is, while you work from home in your PJs, millions of other people have been out and about working during the lockdown, during the pandemic. They've been supplying us with food, vital, essential supplies, delivering your Amazon packages, and trying to keep this country afloat. While you carry on working from home, the people whose jobs rely on you working in the office are really worried about, well, those jobs are up in the air. Not just the person who works at Pret a Manger or Starbucks, but the person who drives the train that you'd normally get to work, or the bus, the people who work in the car parks where you park your car, the people who work in the shops, which you often pass by, the cafes, the bars, the restaurants, all of the businesses and city centres that absolutely need you to be in your office to survive. What does it matter if someone at Pret loses their job as a barista? Your job is safe, right? Except it isn't, because that person is someone who's probably a customer for your job. And if they lose their job, not only are they not going to be able to buy the services and the goods that you provide, they're also not going to be paying any taxes. And that means you eventually going to be paying their benefits. Our economy is so incredibly deeply intertwined and interwoven. We all need to be doing our bit. Get back to the workplace. Get back to the office. Employers, employees, get back into the workplace. See your colleagues. Have a gossip around the coffee machine. Yes, social distancing. Maybe only working half the week or 1 week on, 1 week off. Whatever works. But we need to get our economy going again, because you know that NHS we were all clapping for a few months ago? We're not going to be able to pay for it if we haven't got an economy to actually fund the wages of the doctors and nurses that we've hailed as our heroes. Anyway, that's what I think. Get back to the work if you can. 7 minutes past 8 to the time. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps joins us now. Grant, before we get on to the issue of your job as Transport Secretary, where are you on this apparent battle going on in government about whether or not your civil servants should be back at work or not? Matt Hancock has said that his officials are working very efficiently from home. Rishi Sunak and the Prime Minister are desperate to get people back in the workplace. Do you think your officials should be back in their workplace?
I think people have been, morning by the way, I think people have been working as well as possible from home and actually enjoying the joys of Zoom and Skype and the rest of it. But there is a limit to all of that. You don't get the spark of being with colleagues and exchanging ideas, and also the human contact. And also, there are a lot of people for whom it's not that convenient. You know, people who are perhaps in a flat or an apartment, and they're bed in one corner and trying to squeeze in a video call in another corner. Actually, it's not brilliant for people's mental health as well. And so we do want to make sure that workplaces are welcoming and are COVID secure, and that people can return safely. And that's what we're ensuring happens in this next phase, as you say, from Tuesday, when not only schools go back, but quite a few people will be going back to work as well.
Well, the CBI have warned that our city centres are going to become ghost towns. The latest mobile phone data, really accurate data, not just surveys of what people say they're doing, but actual data of where people's mobile phones are, shows that 17% of workers only have returned to the workplace. It hasn't increased at all since the end of June. Germany and France, meanwhile, have got about 80% of their people back at work. Why are they able to do it and we're not?
So I think partly that's probably down to our economy, much more service-based than Germany and France, for example, much more financial services, insurance, those types of things, which people can do from in front of a computer. If you don't have to be in a factory, then that might be part of the explanation. The other reason, of course, is that they went into this crisis first and therefore been a few weeks coming out of it. I think for us also, it combined with the summer happening to come about, and therefore people saying, well, I'll leave it till the schools are back. And I think probably from next week we will see this uplift in people returning to the workplace. And the workplaces will have been made COVID secure by their employers. There will be some changes, and there won't be space for everybody all the time. So as you just said in your intro there, there'll be people who are perhaps a few days on and off. But we think we do want to, for the health, the public health, mental health of people as well, ensure that option to go back is there where appropriate.
OK, well, let's talk about your brief as Transport Secretary. Yesterday, another announcement about more quarantine countries. Holidaymakers or anyone arriving from Switzerland, the Czech Republic and Jamaica will now have to isolate for 14 days from those countries as of 4 a.m. tomorrow. Why did you decide to add those countries to the list?
Well, giving each of those in turn, Jamaica was fascinating because a week ago, I would not have imagined we would have been adding Jamaica to the list. It had relatively low cases. There was suddenly a 350+% increase in the number of corona cases there. Very, very big increase in very, very little time, and we absolutely needed to act and do so quickly. On the others, the Czech Republic and on Switzerland, we've seen them coming up, we've seen them edging closer, and we've always said that we have to act, protect public health here at home and prevent people from coming back and spreading the disease. On the plus side, Cuba is now on a travel corridor, and you can travel to Cuba without having to self-isolate or quarantine when you come back. But I should say, wherever you are traveling this summer, this autumn, it is going to clearly make sense to think very carefully about whether you would be able to quarantine, as I indeed had to do when I put Spain into quarantine just after arriving in Spain. You've got to be in a position where you're going to be able to get back and quarantine. It is the law, and you can get a criminal record for not following
Well, I mean, look, someone like you who's high profile, let's face it, everyone's going to be watching you. And if you suddenly appeared when you're supposed to be in quarantine, it's going to be noted. You'd probably end up losing your job. However, I've got a number of friends and family who've returned from France since the quarantine has come in, and no questions asked, no forms asked, no one took their details, absolutely nothing. Everything's been done on trust. Now, those people are all quarantining because, they're law-abiding people. They want to do the right thing. There'll be many, many people, though, who know, well, there are no spot checks. No one's going to know. Don't tell people you've been in France. Say you were somewhere else, or in Spain. Just say you were somewhere else. And they're not doing it. If it is so vital that we do quarantine people coming in from these countries, do you not think we should be making sure they are quarantining?
I do. And actually, if people think that largely we have policing by consent in this country, but if people think that they're doing that risk-free, they're not. First of all, obviously.
They are doing it risk-free.
Yeah. First of all, the health risk, they're putting other people's lives at risk. But more to the point, about 1,000 returnees a day are contacted directly. So people do get the calls. Public Health England can come to your door and check you're there. It's important to realise that it's not just the fine for not quarantining. You can actually get a criminal record, and I can tell you there are about 4,200 people who've been referred to the police on this. So don't go thinking it's risk-free. Actually, there are serious risks, but not least the social risk of passing it on. I mean, that's
the moral duty. No, but I'm just telling you. Yeah. Well, I'm talking about people who said that no details of theirs were taken, no forms were filled in, they weren't asked for any information. No one's going to do a spot check on someone they don't know has just travelled back from that country. Again,
if you don't fill in, just to be clear, a passenger locator form is required wherever you're coming back from. It doesn't matter whether it's
They're not collecting it at Eurotunnel.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whichever country you come back from, and whether it's in the travel corridor or not, everyone currently has to fill in a passenger locator form. That's to help protect you. If someone was found on your flight, for example, who was later found to have COVID, that's so you can be contacted. It's for your own.
If you drive a car through the Eurotunnel, no one collects any information, no one collects a form, no one does anything. How on earth are those people going to get a spot check and fined and risk a criminal record if no one has any record that they've come in the country that way?
So like I say, about 1,000 people per day are being checked. Actually, funny enough, my wife was called up after she returned 10 days after I returned from the Spanish family holiday. So she was just going into quarantine and randomly received a call. 1,000 people a day do. Right. There are over 4,000 cases of, referred to the police. You are running a risk, not just in terms of your own criminal record, which will affect things like potentially your work prospects in the future, but actually physically running a risk of harming other people. Okay. Why would you want to do that? Please quarantine if that's what you've been asked.
Let's talk very briefly and finally about something which does affect a lot more people than those returning from holidays, and this is the potholes on the roads. Genuinely, you can have a phone in very, very busy very quickly as soon as you mention potholes. You're carrying out a first of its kind audit into the mapping of potholes in England. I'm hoping this is with a view to actually then repairing the potholes as opposed to just having a map of where they all are.
Correct, and actually, you're forgiven for not remembering this, but at one of the Downing Street press conferences, I pointed out that the roads were incredibly quiet during the height of the pandemic, and so we got out there and got a lot of these potholes fixed.
I haven't. To be fair, I haven't. I remember that, and I have noticed that certainly in my local area. This has been the ideal opportunity to mend a lot of those roads. How many have been mended?
Yeah, the update on this today is we've got schools returning. We're encouraging people to active transport. That means walking, particularly cycling, of course. So we want to make sure that the roads are in good nick for that, and it protects your car as well. So today, actually, we're not. It's quite an innovative package. We're joining forces with a lot of the delivery companies, Deliveroo and Just Eat and Tesco and Ocado, to help map out where there are deficiencies in our roads, where there are potholes, and sometimes using some quite clever technology, cameras and the like, and in order to get and direct the fixing to the right places as quickly as possible. So that will help to extend the map of where problems still exist and help to zap them. Because we've got a £2.5 billion budget for this Parliament, which is a record high. I know it's a constant war to defeat the potholes, and that's before the bad weather comes. But we have been getting on top of it, and this initiative today is going to make it easier for people to return and hopefully be safe on our roads.
One upside to the pandemic, getting those potholes fixed. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps, thank you very much indeed for joining us.